Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to the Jump Dash video. I have 64 creator points. That's actually 2 less than my friend Audiovisual right now because he just got a rated legendary. But when he released Limeade, I had a few less creator points than I do now. I had less than 60. So what I did is I started Wulzy Wednesday, which is the series every single Wednesday where I drop a new level. There's 8 episodes so far, maybe even 9 by the time this video comes out. Some of them are rated, some of them are unrated, but which parts are good and which parts are bad? That's why I'm gonna put all of these parts in these levels onto a tier list. I feel like we can make more creative names for the tiers than these, though. I think this is a fair enough title to put down here. What was I thinking? There are plenty of times when I'm building that I just have no idea what I'm doing. So you can answer that question sometimes by nothing. But hey, the next tier up, I'm gonna call this absolute garbage. This is the E tier, where it's like maybe I had an idea, but it just came out terrible. The next one is a Wulzy classic. This one is going to just be rushed, and I'm gonna make this one kind of goofy looking because it's just funny. Then we have the good idea tier that I'm just gonna quickly rewrite. So this is where maybe something looked cool, but I didn't necessarily give it the love it deserved. It's kind of similar to rush. Then we just have like a nice part at B. Then we have A, which is gonna be I'm actually proud of this. The S tier is going to be peak with this gold font right here. Let's go. Starting off with my fire object only level, lit, is this first cube section, which is actually really sick. I made this big circle effect in the background. There are a bunch of loops that make different parts of the blocks light up at different times as I get there using area triggers. I think this part is pretty cool. I think I could have done something more creative on the outlines at the bottom of the screen, and when the screen flashes, it's kind of ugly with the black bases. So honestly, I think this part might just get a nice tier. Hopefully, I won't need more space. I don't know. I'm expecting that I'll have a few mixed opinions on the parts in these levels. That's going to vary it up. This part is actually pretty cool. What I did on the border was I stretched the fire objects to make them blurry at the bottom like that. The colors are kind of interesting. The pixelate effect is pretty cool. It matches well. I definitely could have done more in the wave section, but I only had fire objects, man. I don't know. I could have maybe added some kind of foreground here. You actually voted this part to be the best in the level by quite a long shot. For me, at least. I'm gonna put this in the good idea tier. It definitely helped me get used to the pixelate trigger. I really like this section with the radio blur. The background combines so many different triggers, and I was learning inverts and stuff. I don't know if I could have really done much more to push the detail. It's just kind of a solid part. Like, it wasn't amazing conceptually the whole time. I think these saw blades are cool and very simple, and the spikes look really nice too. Could have probably took more care with some of the black particles around some of the objects and made them spread out a bit less. I think this goes in the proud of this tier up here. Because I am proud of this part. It's my favorite part on the level. And we have a downward staircase with a pretty lazy trigger spam transition, but it worked. We have the chromatic glitch section. Now, I thought this part was a lot cooler than it was, and then I realized that the chromatic glitch trigger is literally just goated, so I'm kind of carried by it here. There's a lot of empty space. Like, look at this. We're just in a black void with nothing on the sides of the screen at all. Is it in the rush tier? I don't know. I think it's just in the good idea because we did have a pretty cool wave effect in there at the start. Moving on to my generic level, which I called Cruel Verge Spin, which changes the name to super generic level. This part fits the theme. However, is it a good part? It's a toss-up. This scaling background could have done much more. The layering is cool, but it's definitely something that I just went with because why not? Like, I could have polished it so much more. Let's put this into the rushed tier, which is fitting for the generic level, but as a part, it is rushed, I'm afraid. The transition into the next part is basically non-existent. The background just scales up and then the objects appear on the screen. But this part is super clean. I was really happy with the glow effect that I placed. I think the layering in the background is much more satisfying than the grid background earlier. And I also used some area scaling to make these objects bounce up in my face and then scale down after they leave. I just think this part's pretty well made. For a generic level that intentionally copy pastes everything and uses glow, I think it's good. I think for the lack of detail, I'll probably put this in a nice part tier. I don't know why every screenshot is a different size. Kind of strange. Okay, I used the next part to learn gradients for myself and using an invert effect. And I think I did pretty well with the outlines here. This gameplay is honestly terrible because I knew I just wanted to use a lot of different blocks and layers in the block design to make the invert effect stand out. It's okay. I definitely learned a lot from it. Oh, is it in good idea or rushed though? I think I did rush it, to be honest, because there's a lot of copy paste with those star objects. The saw blades are all the same. I could have added more layers to the blocks. I'm gonna run out of space. What was I thinking? Now this part in the ending, oh my gosh, I got so many compliments when I dropped this section. Now it's a lot of area moving, and I used a bunch of hexagons around the outside to create this layered background, and this ended up just not being generic in the slightest. The only thing maybe generic generic about it is the colors, with the darker colors around the outside of the screen. But I actually really like this part. You voted that part at the end to be the least generic in the level, so I'm gonna take that as the best. Oh, I don't know now. Now I'm confused. Do I put it in proud or nice? Because I am proud of the simplicity of it and how well it came together. Yeah, I think it's on the same tier as these. Now we have Wulzy Business, which is my fake mega collab level, and I actually really like the beginning here with the particle and the invert effect that I did on the blocks. Even the ground is inverted at the bottom there. The colors are good. Like, this part is just really vibey, and I like the transition out as well. You guys voted this part to have the best effect in the level, which I respect. Thank you. I'm proud of this part. I think this part's one of the coolest parts I've made in Wulzy Wednesday videos so far. Now this part, I call this part Gym. Don't know why. Lots of particles, lots of overlapping details, lots of black background even still. These arrow particles could have been a lot better though, let's just be real. And the way that the background kind of fades out and leaves the circles visible at random times. Everything overlaps. I think this part had a good idea, but did not get enough love. Okay, moving on. We have the transition into the UFO with this chromatic effect, which leaves the blocks just sitting there. I didn't turn off glow on the spikes. You can kind of see them just sitting there awkwardly. There are a few lines that cut off of the screen, which I've never actually noticed until right this instant, which is quite funny. I mean, look at this. We don't have much. This is a rushed part, guys. Honestly, Wiggle 58, you can go in absolute garbage. I don't even care. Honestly, that probably is the worst part so far. Then we have the Nebula. This part is actually quite cool. I like how the masking works, how there's a particle underneath. I like these star details. That's a good screenshot. I'm stealing that. I like how open the part is. The camera's rotating. It's moving around. Like, this is a decent part. That's another nice part. And I'm already gonna run out of space. This is actually crazy. Okay. I maybe made this a little bit large, but don't worry about it, dude. Oh my. Why have I put the screen so wide? This is an anagram of dual, by the way. I love this effect that we placed behind the blocks. This is probably one of my favorite parts I've made in the Wulzy Wednesday series so far. Like, this part uses the dark background well here because the objects fade off there. And then the particles are a lot more tasteful than they were in Jim's part. I think this has to go in the peak section. Then we have the fake creator name of Wag Slomp. And oh my gosh, my particle usage here was insane. Using it for the saw blades, using it for the blocks with the shiny layer behind. This part is peak to me. We even put the end screen on here. It perfectly stops there. This was crazy. I love this background a lot. It doesn't need a lot of detail to stand out. This is going in the peak section. I don't think there's a single Wulzy Wednesday part that's beaten this. I'm not gonna lie. But stay tuned to find out. This is area spam circles. This is the first cube part where I made this glitch effect with the red outlines using the edit color trigger. Kind of genius for me, honestly. I really like that glitch effect over the top as well. That's kind of making them freak out. I think this is a good part. Other than that layer, the design is not that interesting. I just tried to imitate other 9 circles levels. Is it a nice part? I think it might be a nice part, to be honest. I like it. Some of the colors are kind of weird. Where do I put this? I think good idea, honestly. I could have maybe capitalized on the glitch effect a little bit more. This wave part, dude, the area effect, oh my gosh, it's one of the best that I've ever made. This wave gameplay is actually pretty good. Like, it complements everything pretty well. I've done pretty well here. Let's just be honest. Like, I'd say I'm proud of this. I really like the color loops that we added. But hey, this part, oh my gosh, when I got this effect to work on the blocks, whoa, I completely forgot how cool this part looked with the glow and everything. Second half of this video is actually peak. Holy crap. Every frame is just completely different. This is going right up there with Wag Slump, dude. Wow. Then we have my all circle level, which is pretty cool. I like this background. I like the color scheme in the beginning. This level did end up going unfinished, but I did get it in some sort of a publishable state. I think this design is pretty nice, but the way that I just kept it on a single flat base block, pretty bold choices all around here. Look at this. This base design. It's so goofy. I think this part might be in good idea. Honestly, I might put it in the rush tier. This background had so much potential and absolutely none of it got used on glowy design. Then we have the mini cube that follows with this cool equalizer background. I like that part of it. The blocks are, again, they just see through. They don't really add much to the level at all other than just an obstacle. Ignore the fact that my frames dropped to 8. I think I could have done a lot better adding more around the outsides of the screen. Like, why didn't I make an overlay? Why didn't I add more detail that had more to chew on rather than just neon looking blocks? Like, some of the pulses are ugly too. Kind of like the vibes of this level, but design wise it is kind of garbage. Now let me show you why this level did not get finished and I kind of just cancelled it on the spot. The amount of area triggers and objects in this section made this absolutely insane to run. Like, my frame rate is consistently below 20, which is awful. I couldn't even play it. It was that bad. So this is the first what was I thinking. What a level, dude. It gets a what was I thinking, it gets an absolute garbage, and and it gets a rushed. Okay, welcome to Sawsome. This is my saw blade only level. This song is very intense and flashy, as you can tell. Oh my gosh, the amount of comments I got about the flashes in this pod. I'm sorry. You know how hard it is to actually build with a saw blade? I mean, I just stretched them out for block design. I think this pod had an okay idea. I was kind of going for a cyber theme, but it's not really fleshed out in this pod. So can I call it rushed? Probably, yeah. This pod, though, this pod's actually creative. And that overlay is probably one of the coolest ones I've ever made. I actually really like how I left the screen open to really let the gradient in the background stand out with the rotations and stuff. Look how artsy this is. I think this is going to be in the proud of it tier. It's not peak. This is like a really good screenshot. The first part is winning, even though it's so rushed. The scrapped part got more votes than the second part and the third part, even though I scrapped it. I really like this neon section, this overlay with the saw blades that fade out of the edges. And look how watery this block looks. I really like this part, how you have to go up and down to find the big wave structures at the top and bottom. This is another part that I'm genuinely proud of. I really like this overlay, how it moves depending on where you go. Let's put this in the proud of this tier as well. Like, this level has some really cool parts. Then we have the cube part at the end, which has this really hypnotic background that uses the circles on the inside of these saw blades. Love the design that I made with the saw blades and the spikes just forming perfectly there. I think it looks so sick. Like, look at this screenshot, man. So much going on. Could have maybe had a little bit of polish for the orbs and stuff just to make them a little bit cleaner. But I think I did a pretty good job considering I was only allowed to use saw blades for the decoration. I think this goes a nice part just for a few oversights that I made. This UFO also could have had a lot more attention to detail, and this could have been cooler. Then we have Wulzy Wednesday Basic, my take on a Dorobe Basic level. I really like this shifting effect, how the saw blades go back and forth. I like the arrows doing it too. I think the blocks definitely could have had a little bit more to them, maybe just like some sort of effect landing on them. Maybe if Dorobe was around today, they would have maybe added some kind of Rob Top style effect where as soon as you land, the block flashes, there's glow kind of rising off them. I think that could have elevated the part. I think it goes in the good idea tier, because I really like that warping effect, how they go back and forth. Then we move on to the ship corridor, which is the laziest thing you will ever see in your entire life. It's just 2 area scale effects. The gradient kind of lights up. Woo! But there's really nothing more to it than that. It fits, but it doesn't have the funk of a Dorobe part. It's going in garbage. Or maybe even what was I thinking? Yeah, what was I thinking? Then we have the UFO section, where we have a bunch of gradients that have their endpoints kind of randomly moving around, which makes this feel very fluid. It doesn't feel very Dorobe. I could have maybe scaled the arrows to be a little bit different in their size. It's a small bit of a rush. I think the idea is okay, but it could have went further with more movements, or more controlled movements even. And then we have this bridge, which just uses a lot of gradient objects to make platforms, and we have this duel which is split on the top and bottom. It goes back and forth, similarly to how 1.9 creators used to cover one side of the duel and then do something on the other side and then make you switch your attention back and forth. I think it's a good gimmick. I like the idea. I spent a lot of time here trying to get it right and just make the timings and everything good. Nice part. Then we have this section with some more interesting block choices for once, which actually feels a little bit more Dorobe. Definitely fits the theme more than the other 2 purple parts in the middle. I think the area moves here are pretty cool. It's just very basic to look at overall. I have the right vibe in mind for sure. I think it's a bit trippy and it's a little different to the rest of the level. Is it a good idea? I think probably. It has to go a tier higher than the UFO section. Come on. Now we have the very controversial, please rate 2-star. I know that I messed up my original idea of the gameplay being 2 stars. The whole time I was building, I was like, okay, I need to make this fair. But as I added more detail, as it always does for my levels, it gets a little bit more clustered, and there's so many layers here, you can't tell what's what. You can't see the saw blades anymore on top of the bricks, for example, so I started panicking. This boss section at the beginning, I think it's a little rushed for what it should be. It should be a nice, super smooth opening. There's a lot of different blocks here. I think this is very overwhelming for a new player. This transition to this platform, kind of crazy bad. A lot of different objects once again. Oh, here we go. If you looked at the screenshot, right? What would you think is happening in this image?
I've got no idea.
You've got no idea. It's a 2-star level. What am I doing? I love these objects, right? The part kind of looks cool when it's in motion, but come on, let's be serious here. This is worse than garbage. This is a serious what are you thinking here? The next part has a lot more contrast between the blocks in the background. We still got those ridiculous rotating blue orbs, but at least it's formatted a bit better to a readable thing. I think I did well with the background and stuff and the color changes too. Honestly, all things considered, the jet streams kind of take it away from nice part though. I'm gonna demote it. Good idea. Yeah. Then we have a transition into this ship section where you have to collect all the coins with no obstacles to get to the end of the level. An actual good idea. Wow. It took me 10 minutes to set up in a basic form. I think I'm proud of this for that reason. I think I'm proud of this. I really like the color editing I did. This is my tier list, dude. How do you feel about it? The curve is a little weird. I was expecting it to be more around the good idea section. I actually do like what I make, which is why building is fun for me. What was I thinking tier is actually kind of hilarious. And the next time we do this, we can do levels 9 to 16. This graph is kind of what I was thinking. I rate music on the side as like a hobby. I would have expected the shape of this to match more with this. Thank you so much for watching. Check the links in the description. Leave a like and subscribe. Thank you, Raikion, for editing. Have a good day.